When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. Rowpaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
Get ready for the time of your life at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's newest destination for fun, featuring the world's biggest poolside tailgate party with 3 levels of action, 6 pools, and a 143-foot screen. The fun is always on deck with all the games all year long. Stadium Swim, located in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Book the time of your life today at circalasvegas.com.
All right, what's going on, Boise State fans? Sorry we're a few minutes tardy here. Rob and I were catching up like old friends here before we started, but we got Bronco Nation News live on a Wednesday, a ton going on, and really excited to have you folks here. Appreciate rowpaint.com, our title sponsor, the official paint and coatings company of Boise State Athletics. Joined today by Rob Dauster, and I got to be honest, I've been following Rob's work for a long time. He was with NBC and a lot of other national companies, and then branched out on his own and decided to start the Field of 68 media network. And the live shows and stuff that you're seeing us do right here kind of came from seeing Rob's success doing that with the Field of 68. And Rob, you're one of the best in the business, knowledgeable on college basketball. And like I said, on the business side of things, it's been fun watching you make the Field of 68 work. So appreciate you giving me a few minutes here, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. And it's fun to see you growing this, your Boise State channels, man. It's great to be able to branch out on your own and build your own thing and own your own company and work for yourself instead of having to work for the man. It's great being the man instead of having to work for the man.
It is. It's been a fun couple of months, and we talked a couple times before I started. You gave me some advice and things, so I do appreciate it. And it's, before we get into Boise State and the Mountain West, and if anybody does have a question or a comment here, you can fire it up there, and maybe we can get the Rob Dauster retweet and get the views up for this one. But let's tell us, before we get into, as I said, Boise State, and folks can get their questions and comments in now on the Mountain West and Boise State, but just your Field of 68 media network. It's just on Twitter at the Field of 68. For folks maybe unfamiliar with it, it's been a lot of fun for me, man. Every night, it's can't miss. I would say television, but I guess can't miss social media shows every night. Last night you're in there, and you got Sean Miller on one side of you, and the other Miller brother on the other. Archie Miller. I mean, you got some big time coaches and guests, and you break down college basketball every night, and you're able to bring on coaches and players after the games. Just talk about your venture first and how much fun that is.
The big thing for me was we started this last year and didn't really know what we were doing. We were just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what worked and seeing what stuck and seeing where people kind of reacted to it. Like the vision that we initially had was we're going to create a podcast and a show for every single college basketball team in the country. And that's just not something that's feasible to do. I think we have like 25 college basketball shows now, and managing that has been enough of its own kind of effort. So what we did find, though, was at the end of last year's tournament, we would just go live and react immediately afterwards. Like just jump on a StreamYard, jump on Restream. And we found that that's when we got the most interaction with people, the most people jumping in the chat on YouTube, the most people reacting and commenting on Twitter, and the most people watching it. So we were like, why don't we lean all the way into this? When I was growing up, I remember during the summers, I would come home, and what I would do at the end of the night was I would just put on Baseball Tonight, and I would sit there and I would figure out everything that happened in baseball on that night. And there that just didn't exist in the college basketball space. And I know all these major media networks like ESPN and CBS have kind of gone away from strictly covering college basketball from a national perspective, because those specific stories are never going to be big enough unless it's like Duke or Kentucky to kind of beat out the NBA or beat out the NFL or beat out college football. But college basketball has a huge and passionate fan base spread across the entire country. It's just more diluted. And what I mean by that is we have 80 teams that are relevant, that are good. We have 68 teams that are going to make the NCAA tournament. There are probably 30 teams that are good enough to make a Final Four. And it's just not like that. There are 32 teams in total in the NFL. There are 32 teams in total in the NBA. And there's 12 that really matter when it comes to winning a national title in college football. So I just figured, if all of these people care about it, right, let's try to find a way to lean into what all of these other people are not doing. So we decided to just do a show every single night called The Field of 68 After Dark. And luckily we had people that kind of believed in our vision. We were able to get a sponsor that was able to back us and try to make this thing a reality. And we keep throwing stuff at the wall and stuff keeps sticking, and we keep trying to figure out what exactly we're going to end up doing, man. But I'll tell you, this has been a fun ride.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything came from the pandemic, it was that, I mean, all these companies I think were around. Nobody just knew about them, and the restreams and all this kind of stuff. We use StreamYard, and just the fact that, you can have a show with Archie Miller and Sean Miller and be talking basketball, and then bring on a coach or a player and have their video on there. I mean, nobody would have thought that was possible a couple years ago or even dreamed of doing it. And it's great stuff, every night. And so we do our stuff more in the morning. So I'm actually appreciative of you waking up. This is probably early for you. You're the after dark guy in the evenings watching all the games. So
no, I got my pot of coffee, and I got a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old, man. Like, sleep does not exist in my house.
Well, 4-year-old and 6-year-old for me. And usually you do toast you guys have your 3 cheers or your toast at night. So I'll toast to the Diet Dr. Pepper. You got the coffee. We'll appreciate you for coming on. And I like to jump in your chat sometimes and give you crap, but it's a lot of fun. And I, like I said, I really have kind of followed what your model and tried to build something here that I hope folks are, at least in Boise on a smaller scale. And it's been fun. And, Boise State 14-1 since I started Bronco Nation News. And they actually lost the very first day I started the site. I had this big buildup. I just started it on November 30th. I'm from St. Louis, so it just happened, and I thought it was perfect to start it on the game when they played St. Louis. They lost that night, and then they have not lost since, 14 in a row. And I do take a lot of the credit personally for this venture, for their 14-game winning streak. And I know you have 358 teams to cover, and you're doing these shows, and you're not watching every game. So I know you haven't watched every second or maybe even that much at all of Boise State this year. But just in general, 24th at Torvik, 31 in the net, 29 at Ken Palm, 14 games in a row, 8-0, first place in the Mountain West. What is your take from afar of Leon Rice and the 2021-2022 Boise State basketball team?
I'll tell you what, I don't know if I necessarily expected Leon Rice to turn Boise State into a team that won games 42-37. I always kind of envisioned them as teams that wanted to get out and run a little bit and score a little bit more and be a little bit more free flowing offensively. And that's just not really what they are this year. And that's fine. You're winning basketball games. You're first place in the Mountain West, which, by the way, I don't think enough people talk about as being a really, really good, really tough league. Like, there's a real chance that we can get 4, maybe 5, depending on how things shake out, teams from the Mountain West into the NCAA tournament. Like right now, we do a show called Fielding the 68, which puts together a bracket with we got a bunch of independent bracketologists that work with us, and they had 3 teams in plus Wyoming as the first team out, and that was before Wyoming beat Colorado State in that thriller on
that was awesome,
what was that, Monday night? Great game. So I as long as you don't beat each other up too much, and as long as some of those teams at the top of the conference don't fall to like a San Jose State or someone else at the bottom of the league, I think we're going to get 4 Mountain West teams into the tournament, and that's good, man. Like I love seeing teams from that conference be able to make a run and put it together. It breaks up the monotony of having to talk about like Arkansas or LSU or see someone like Miami or Florida State. Some of these teams from the middle of these power conferences get in. So it's nice. And there's some good teams. There's some fun teams in the Mountain West. You're going to see one of them. Is it tomorrow?
Yep, Boise State, Wyoming. Big one tomorrow. The top 2 teams in the Mountain West.
Yeah, that'll be a showdown. That building is crazy. Has it always been that wild?
Yeah, when they get a crowd, it is, and they've struggled at times because they've been they had the Larry Nance Jr., Josh Adams days. Remember a few years back, but they kind of went into a little bit of a lull, weren't as good, didn't get great crowds. And then now Jeff Linder coming in, former Boise State assistant, actually, and then goes to Northern Colorado, kills it there, and goes to Wyoming. And now, yeah, you saw that game Monday night, man. That was it wasn't quite Texas Tech last night, but it was they had the whiteout going, and that was the border war rivalry with Colorado State. That was a lot of fun, man. And I expect tomorrow night, Wyoming 17-3, Boise State 17-4, first two, top two teams in the Mountain West. I would suspect another big crowd tomorrow night. And yeah, you mentioned Wyoming. You got San Diego State, who's always there. Colorado State, even teams like Fresno State are kind of in the mix. And I'm putting it on you, man. You say nobody's talking about the Mountain West. Let's hear some more on the Field of 68 talk here on the Mountain West. Come on.
Yeah, well, it'll happen. We've had David Roddy on. We had Nico Medved on. We had Brian Dutcher on earlier on in the preseason. We got to get the Boise State stuff.
I was going to say, man, if they win tomorrow night, I think we need a post-game interview with Coach Rice or something. Come on.
The problem is, so we go live at 11 Eastern, which is part of the deal that we have with Sirius XM.
Okay.
And the games out west,
tomorrow's a 9 Eastern start, man. It's perfect for you. We're
so
putting the pressure on you.
You got to win. Give me a Boise State win. We'll get Leon Rice on. He's entertaining enough. By the way, it was funny the other day. Steve Prohm, who coached at Iowa State, was talking about Boise State and like, oh yeah, these guys are great. They really, really guard. I watched them completely lock up San Diego State. Mike Rice is doing a great job running that program. I'm like, oh man, Steve, it's the wrong Rice.
You got Mike Rice, you got Dave Rice. There's some former coaches with the Rice last name for sure. But yeah, Leon Rice has been great, and now the buzz is starting to build a little bit, Rob, because you're seeing him in most of the bracketologies. And
I'll tell you what's huge. I'll tell you what's huge for the league is that teams that aren't necessarily competing at the very top of the conference have great computer numbers. Utah State is what are they? I think they're 33rd on KenPom right now. And if you win at Utah State, it's a quad 1 win, right? If you win at Fresno State right now, that's a top 50 win in the net. And that right there is a difference between getting 2 teams in and getting 4 and potentially 5 teams in, because you have quality wins in the league. That's huge. That's huge. Arizona went on a run.
They haven't had that in a long time.
Yeah, I'll put it into context for everybody. So Arizona, before that UCLA game, was sitting at 6-0 in the Pac-12. They were number 3 in the country. They were number 1 seed in every single bracket that was getting put out. And they did not have a win over a team in their conference that was better than 85th in KenPom. And right now, Boise State, these are their last 4 wins. At Utah State, 33rd in KenPom and a quad 1 win. At San Diego State, 32nd in KenPom, quad 1 win. Home for Wyoming, 53rd in KenPom, which is a quad 2 win. At Fresno State, 47th in KenPom, a quad 1 win. Right now, Boise State is 4-0 against quad 1 opponents.
Yeah,
they got some ugly losses from the start of the year. Hopefully, you can find a way to manufacture. We were coming off of something. We had a player missing. You need to lie about something with that when it comes down to
well, they kicked the player off. They actually kicked a player off the team and moved a freshman into the starting lineup, and that's when this winning streak started.
Oh, so that's what it was. So you had the guy that wasn't very good.
Exactly.
You got to make sure the committee finds that out.
Yep.
Who was it? Who got booted?
Devonair Dutrieve, former Arizona player.
Yeah. I'm not going to try to say his name. I've tried to say his name before.
Devonair Dutrieve. Yeah, he was a top 100 player there. Got basically booted from Arizona. Boise State gave him a second chance, and maybe from a raw talent perspective, one of their most talented players. But his style just didn't quite fit the team oriented game of Leon Rice's team and the defensive.
That's a politically correct way of saying it.
We don't need to put the guy down on, with the team winning, but that has become a big story, at least here in Boise, that they moved a freshman, Tyson Degenhardt, into the starting lineup for that St. Louis game, and they're 14-1 since. And I'll say this though, Rob, I don't know what your thoughts are, but here locally in Boise, there's a lot of fans that just haven't quite bought in yet. This team has, in years past, struggled in March. Their record in the Mountain West tournament is not very good. They've been snake bit going up against the Sam Merrill and some hot teams, and they have not, only 2 NCAA tournaments in Leon Rice's 11 years, and both were in the first 4, appearance. So some fans don't even count that the first 4 is the tournament. Last year, they were 13-1, had a 13-game winning streak, and then finished 6-8 and missed the tournament. A lot of fans are buying in, but there are some of those fans that aren't actually going to buy in or believe it until Selection Sunday when they're in the field. What's just your take nationally on this team? And it doesn't look like to me this team is the kind of team that's going to have that huge slide, because they don't have one guy they rely on. It's 3, 4, 5 guys, and their main 2 things are defense and rebounding, and those are things that usually help avoid prolonged slumps. But what What's your take on maybe the national perspective of Boise State's program?
Yeah, I mean the fact that they win with defense and they win with rebounding means that you kind of set yourself for the floor. That means you're always going to be competitive. No one's going to ever run away from Boise State. You're not going to get blown out, right?
Number 6, I think, is that the new number? Number 6 in defensive efficiency at Ken Palm.
I think I'm looking at it right now. They're
okay.
5th. They're top 5 in defensive rebounding rate. They're top 25 in effective field goal percentage, defensive effective field goal percentage. You're never going to get blown out. And if you're going to be in every game, you're going to have a chance to win every single game. It's all going to come down to execution down the stretch and who makes the right decisions and point guard play and all, like whatever coaching cliche you want to throw out there is what it's going to come down to. But you're going to be in every single game. And I think that one means it's going to be one of those seasons where you probably need to make sure that you take your heart medication before games, because it's not going to be easy, and it's not.
They've had 4 or 5 in a row coming down to the Marcus Shaver Jr.'s hit 3 game-winning shots in the last 4 games, or 3 shots to at least send it to overtime in the last 4 games. It's been crazy.
So the thing that I will say is this: as long as they don't do something stupid, right? Let's say that. Take care of business against. I'm looking at the schedule right now. You got San Jose State at home. You got UNLV at home. You got Air Force on the road. You got UNLV on the road, and you got Nevada at home.
And they did actually add in Colorado State on Super Bowl Sunday for a makeup game in Boise.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, perfect. So as long as what I'm saying is, don't do something dumb against those 5 teams, and pick up 1 or 2 wins against the rest of your schedule, and you're going to be sitting there with 6 quad 1 wins on Selection Sunday. Like if you have 6 quad 1 wins for a team that ranks in the top 40 in the net, which is what it's going to be for Boise State this season, like they're probably getting in the tournament. You know, don't do something dumb. Like Tim Miles is a good coach. He might throw something at you, might end up losing that game.
And UNLV's got some
talent.
Yeah.
They got some guys that can go off on you. But I mean, as long as you don't do something dumb, they're dancing. They're going to get in the big dance.
They did have a rough. It's funny. Last night they moved up 1 spot at Ken Palm to 29, but they actually had 3 games fall down a quad. Santa Clara, Nevada, and St. Bonaventure all dropped down just below that threshold. So going into yesterday, they were 8-3 in the first 2 quadrants, and now they're 6-2. It's funny how that stuff mattered. What do you think of that? Where it doesn't matter when you played the team; it's what they are at the end of the season where it matters. And with injuries and things, and I don't know, there's no way to really quantify it. But I feel like, if you're playing a team that's top 25 in December, you don't get any credit for that if they fall down to 65 or whatever, or 75 or out of the top 100 by March. What do you think of the quad system and how it's designed?
I think it makes sense. I also think that there are human beings that are sitting there looking at these team sheets that kind of understand the flow and the way that a season goes. It's not just as simple as saying they have 6 quad 1 wins, right? There's going to be people looking at them saying, yeah, they got 6 quad 1 wins, but these are 6 wins against teams that rank between 65 and 75 in the net on the road. Like these are not, there's a difference between that quad 1 win and going and beating Auburn on a neutral court like UConn did, right? So there are people that are sitting there breaking this stuff down, which is why it's not quite as simple as just simply looking at the numbers and the way the stuff that is bracketed. That's just an easy way to format it and create some kind of like 35,000 foot, 360 degree view of what these resumes look like. But look,
go ahead, sorry.
Well, all I was going to say is that there are so many good wins available in the Mountain West. And because there are so many teams with good computer numbers, you're not going to have it get dragged down by the bottom of the league as much as you normally do. That's going to happen in the Pac-12. That's going to happen in the ACC. In the Mountain West, the computer numbers, what these teams did in non-conference play, has made it so that you're not going to the bottom's not going to fall out when it comes to some of these rankings as much as you might expect.
And that's been a huge change. Last year you had, Air Force, San Jose, New Mexico, all these teams in the 320s and 330s and all these rankings. And even a New Mexico is 153 this year. And you have Nevada 130. UNLV is almost about to be a top 100 game. They're at 102 in Ken Palm. And so when you only have 2 teams in the league outside of the top 153, that is crazy. And you look at, Wyoming. Who's the team other than Boise State? If there was a team, and maybe it's standings, maybe it's just talent-wise, however you want to quantify it. But, Boise State 8-0. You have Wyoming at 6-1, and that game obviously is massive tomorrow. San Diego State is sitting there with 2 conference losses, and then you have both Colorado State, Fresno State with 3. Who would be the team other than Boise State that you would pick that would be the most dangerous in March, or still could win the league, or just the next best team?
I still think that Colorado State's probably going to end up being the most dangerous team in March, because I still think that they have the two best players in the conference in David Roddy and Isaiah Stevens. And they play a difficult style. They're tough to match up with. They're tough to prepare for on kind of a short break. So they're the team that I think can kind of put together and make a run. Same thing with Wyoming too, like Hunter Maldonado and I can't remember what's the big fella's name.
Graham Ike.
Graham Ike, yeah. So they have a great 1-2 punch. But the thing about Boise State is, man, like you don't want to play against them. They suck to play against because it's not. They have a bunch of guys that are high major athletes that have bought into what Leon Rice is asking them to do. They have a bunch of guys that are going to grind you out defensively that are fine just winning the fight and hoping that if they win the fight, they're going to also win the game at the end of the day. And that's not fun to play against, right? That makes them somebody that you don't want to see on your schedule in your bracket. If you have someone that you don't want to see in your schedule or your bracket, that's a good thing if you're that team.
Are they a team you think could win it? Could not just get in the tournament, but maybe with the right matchup, win a game too?
Yeah, I mean, probably. If you look at their schedule, they haven't really beaten anyone that's going to be great. You know, I would probably hazard to guess that these Mountain West teams are the ones that get the at-large bids are going to be in that like 9 to 12 seed range, which means you're going to be going up against kind of borderline top 25 teams in the first round. And if you look at who they've beaten, they haven't really beaten anyone that's at that level. Maybe Washington State is maybe the best team on a neutral, but they haven't really played anyone. They haven't gotten a chance. And I do think that when you are doing things like going into San Diego State and winning a game in that arena with those fans and a team that can play the way they can play, like that's not an easy thing to do. And I know that people probably don't look at it the same way as going into Pauley Pavilion and winning there, but Viejas is a tough place to play, and that team has some good play. Like Matt Bradley's a stud, right? So Matt Bradley,
yep,
the kid from Cal, right? Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. So they have some good wins, man. They could definitely win a game. It all comes down to matchups in March. Like we could sit here and say whatever we want about however these teams play, but what if you end up playing like Alabama in the first round? Alabama could end up being like a 5 or a 6 seed in the tournament this year. And if you get them in the first round, who knows? They don't want to get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you mentioned it, but yeah, you got the quad 1 game tomorrow. The game at Colorado State to end the season will be quad 1, and then depending on what happens with Utah State and San Diego State, both hovering around that 30 mark, those 2 home games could end up being quad 1. So still 4 more potential quad 1 games for Boise State, and they're already 4-0. And they had to play 4 of 5 on the road, and they had in a 10-day span. They played 5 games in 11 days, and it was in 5 different states. They had to play a Thursday at Utah State and a Saturday at San Diego State. I mean, this winning streak, if you actually break it down, is pretty amazing. Second longest streak
in January. They played. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games in January, and 5 of them were away from home, and 3 of those road games were against top 50 opponents. And they get to February, and what do? First game of February. Oh, you get Wyoming on the road. And
this was the game where Boise State actually flew to Wyoming, and they were like an hour from tip-off, and the game got canceled on New Year's Day because Boise State had COVID issues, and that started Boise State's pause. So Boise State actually went to Wyoming but couldn't play the game. Jeff Linder made some kind of salty comments and about that one and having to cancel the game, and then now they're actually going to make their second trip, which I know people love making 2 trips in a span of a month to Laramie, Wyoming. So they're looking forward to that. And Rob, the game is on a big game, national game like this. It's on the Mountain West Network. How about that?
Well, yeah, that's what happens when you get these games rescheduled. You got to find a way to get it on something, somehow, some way.
Yep. Final thing, I took up too much of your time already, but I guess just your as you kind of wrap this up, you're talking to Boise State fans here, Bronco Nation. What would be your parting words on their confidence level, or where they should be, what they should be thinking of? There's still people out there that don't like Leon Rice. There are Leon Rice detractors in Boise thinking he hasn't done enough in the tournament. 2 in 11 years, hasn't gotten them past the first 4. Like I said, they haven't had the greatest Mountain West tournament record. What would be your parting shot, I guess, or your parting words to Boise State fans about Leon Rice, about the direction of this program, about this team and their confidence level, or how they should be sitting here on February 2nd heading towards the big dance?
He's had 1 season where he didn't finish above 500, right? Since that first tournament, 1 season where he hasn't finished above 500. It's the only year that he didn't win 20 games. Other than that was the COVID season. There's been a level of consistent high level relevance. Now, if you want to quibble with the fact that maybe you've had some guys that have been NBA caliber players and you haven't been able to win, blah, 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 whatever. Like the Mountain West is a tough league. You're not just going to get one dude and win it. This isn't like you're playing in the WAC. This isn't like you're playing in the Great West Conference. It's a good league. You have a team that's relevant. Back them. Show up. Be loud. Make that home. Make that home like what Wyoming's is. Make that home what San Diego State's is. Make it so it's impossible to go in there and win. If you want them to be great, show up, back them, support them, let them know. Make it. If your home court is a fortress, man. Think about it like this. Part of the reason why Kansas won 87 straight Big 12 titles or whatever it was is because it's impossible to go into the fog and win. So you had to be able to beat the best team in the league at home to be able to have a better record than them on the road when Kansas is the best team and probably the best coach team in the league. That's why they won it, because no one wins in Fog Island Fieldhouse. Vegas said nobody wins in Boise. That's the best way to become a great team. Defend your home court.
Yeah, and they got a lot of home games against some good teams coming up. If they take care of business at home here, they're probably going to the tournament here with that was the only nice thing about playing all these road games. They finished with 6 out of 9 at home, and they already went to the Pit and won, already went to Reno and won, already went to San Diego, Logan. I mean, they're Fresno. They've won at the toughest places in the league, and all those teams still have to come back to Boise now. So they're in a pretty good spot if they can keep it rolling. And tomorrow night, obviously a huge game, again, 7:00 Mountain Time, and we'll see. Maybe we can put the pressure on Rob and the Field of 68, get some Boise State love on their post-game show tomorrow night if they can make it 15 straight. Second longest winning streak in the nation, only to Auburn. So, Rob, you said 11 Eastern every night is when the show goes live, so 9 o'clock out here in Boise?
9 o'clock. So we'll make sure that if Boise State wins, I promise you I'm going to be hitting up that coaching staff. We'll see if we can get Leon on.
Well, I'm mostly just joking. We know you guys do a great job, and but again, every night 9 p.m. You have different hosts and different analysts. It's kind of a hot, different night on different people on different nights. But I love it. You take the comments, you take the questions. You guys are sipping on a cocktail and talking college basketball. I mean, it's a lot of fun. So hopefully, folks will start checking that out if they're not. What's the YouTube channel? Is just the Field of 68? It's
called the Field of 68. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, if you get let's do this. If we get BJ to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, then we'll get Boise State. We'll get Leon Rice on after dark. That's what we need. Get BJ those 1,000 subs.
All right. He needs 1,000 subs. We're only at about 450, man. I don't know if we can get there by tomorrow night. We'll see.
There's a lot of people in the city of Boise. I know that.
All right. Go to YouTube, subscribe. And again, we'll be watching you, Rob. Appreciate what you do coming on, man. You do a great job. And hopefully as we get closer to tournament time, we can do this again, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Rob Dauster, again, the Field of 68, does a great job. Appreciate his time. Take care, folks. Signing day for football, so we'll have full coverage talking to Andy Avalos and some coaches here in a little bit. And then tomorrow we got Ken Pomeroy coming on, as well as Matt Bauscher, former Boise State basketball player, as well, to preview the game. So appreciate you checking us out. Thanks again to Rob, and we'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News, BroncoNationNews.com.
When it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.